Welcome friends to this new edition of Mineral Exploration Academy video series on current affairs in exploration and mining sector in India. I'm Amit Tripathi, your host today, and today we have a very distinguished guest with us. Dr. V.N. Vasudev is one of the very few geologists and definitely part of a very rarefied club worldwide who have taken exploration project from grassroots to feasibility. Early in his career, he discovered southern extensions of the Ingalldal copper mines, and leading the team, he discovered Ganajur gold deposit and the deep extensions of lode gold in Jonagiri goldfields. He has been co-founder of Dagan Gold Mines Limited, Geo Mysore Services, and a few other exploration companies. At the moment, he is the CEO of MPXG Exploration and an advisor to several other exploration and geology companies. Welcome, Dr. Vasudev.
Thank you, Amit, for this opportunity.
Normally, governments make laws for mining and exploration industry and keep them stable for a very long time. This is essentially done because the duration of mining projects are 20 to 50 years, very long duration projects. But in India, we see very frequent changes to the law. Especially in the last 15-20 years, there have been so many changes since 1992, the liberalization, and then there have been so many. We have the stated government policy intentions is often aimed at enhancing exploration, increasing domestic production, reducing imports, and encouraging growth of exports. Do you think Mining Act that came into effect in 2015 has delivered as it was intended to happen in its vision statement?
I'm very happy, Amit, that you raised a very, very important question and a very timely question too. Time has come to review the deliverables of the Act. India has repeatedly changed the policy. The Ministry of Mines came up in 1993 with a national mineral policy when there was a huge response from the international explorers and mining companies. And that was carried on with some amendments in 1999. And they introduced what is called reconnaissance permit at that stage. They did not work because although the policies and the act were very good, it was in tune with the international policies, there was a lot of delay on the part of the state governments who took years to process reconnaissance permits, prospecting licenses, and mining leases. So that was a major setback which led to the HODA committee that led to National Mineral Policy 2008. And then national policy led to what is called MMDR Act 2011. And it became 2012. There was introduction of auction route. And the Act 2015 is before us today. Act 2015, in my opinion, has failed to deliver the intentions contained in all these policies, particularly gold. India is heavily dependent on import, nickel, copper concentrates.
So why do you think government changed the policy so frequently, and what led the government to bring in the auctions?
The entire focus of the MMDR Act 2015 is revenue generation, not resource development. So they started allotting mines through whoever gives the highest bid. Sometimes, it is bidders have offered illogically high bids in excess of 100%. It's okay if auction of fully proven blocks, if it happens, doesn't matter at all. But what has happened is the auction route is adopted even for exploration, allotment of, for example, prospecting cum mining lease. That is what is called CL. There has been no takers in the last 5 years, and coupled with the auction route for composite license has virtually killed the exploration industry in India today. The FDI has dried up. There is a flight of Indian capital to overseas destinations. I would say nearly in the year 2016, $2.16 billion of investment, Indian investment, went to overseas mineral-friendly destinations. This is a wake-up call for the government, Ministry of Mines.
And all of this has happening in conjunction with increasing of our imports and reducing exports, or even when we have a sufficient quantity of metals or minerals in ground, we keep importing them. So how is the policy intention of increasing domestic production and self-reliance. Policy of auctions is not supporting all these policy intentions.
As I said, auction is okay where there is a fully proven block with no encumbrances. But what is happening is it's entirely a skewed one. Hardly 5 minerals is being talked about in the country in the last 5 years: iron ore, manganese, chromite, limestone, bauxite. So that means this is a skewed development. And even the states and the central government have failed to address the resource development to replace minerals that we are importing. Example, gold, for example. There has been no action on the reducing the import.
Would it not be easy for miners or mining companies to actually take the blocks in auction rather than going through the process of obtaining first the mining lease, then environmental clearance, then forest clearance, then revenue department, so many other clearances? In auction, everything would be available in one go. Would it not be easy for the mining
Exactly.
company?
That's what they should do. I understand that there was a newspaper reports in the media. We recently heard that the government wants to auction all those blocks along with the clearances so that the bidder can start immediately the mining.
So, do you mean that at the present, for last 4 or 5 years, all the auctions were done without clearances?
Yes, it's left to the hardly a few mines among the 60 mines that are auctioned. Hardly a few have commenced operations. And when the revenue going to be delivered to the government, it's all a mirage. This is a very skewed policy. And even then, I favor auction if there is a already fully proven resource and which goes to the miner with clearance, with all the clearance.
So, you mean
But
to say that in the current
but
scenario, the government is actually auctioning blocks without having proved the resources, without having
exactly,
provided any clearances, without forest clearance, without environment clearance, and then
exactly.
the investor has to go about in circles to get all these clearances, which takes 3 to 5 years, and obviously they will not be able to start any production or do any work till then.
Exactly. Among the nearly 11 CLs that are granted, Amit, what has happened is not even one exploration has started under the CL level. This is it's a deplorable condition of the new act, I should say. It's a non-bulk mineral resources have been completely relegated to the background. There is no focus on it, although they repeated all the policies right from 1993, NMP 2019 speak of the deep-seated development of deep-seated mineral resources.
If a policy does not meet their intended objectives, they can be probably set as faulty rules. Do you agree? So
Yes,
these rules.
these are faulty rules because these are not in tune with the time-tested international best practices. India is trying to reinvent the wheel than adopting laws that are already in vogue, which, on the basis of which countries like Australia, even China, and North America have been very successful in developing their mineral resource. Why the government of India, Ministry of Mines, chose to adopt auction even for exploration, I can't fathom it.
So what you are implying is that essentially faulty rules have crept into the jurisdictional framework, distortions in the industry. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. For example, I'll tell you, Fraser makes annual analysis. In the year 2016, India was placed at 97 among 104 countries. That was in 2016. You know what happened in the year 2018 and 19? India does not even figure business-friendly nation. That is the direct effect of the new Act 2015.
Now we have observed in many different scenarios that governments instead of retracting a faulty regulation, the governments try to bring in more distortions to correct the distortions that are already there.
One important thing that I also heard was the earlier non-exclusive reconnaissance permit are going to be made exclusive. That is a very welcome move, because there have been no takers for non-exclusive reconnaissance permit in the last 5 years.
Can you give some more examples of how the policy distortions create unintended consequences?
Yes, I will say, for example, MSMEs in the bulk sector, that is particularly iron ore. 25% of the country's sponge iron is being produced by MSMEs, particularly in the current post-corona scenario. The focus should be on MSMEs. So in the mineral industries, the auction route is likely to kill MSMEs because the entire focus is on the big boys in the industry. If merchant mining is killed, then who will supply the ore at a proper, reasonable price to MSMEs? Ore supplies from the merchant miners, almost more than 1 billion tons of iron ore is already garnered by the major industries. Fine, that's very important. I agree that has happened. But henceforth, they should completely open up. Soul of MMDR Act 1957 was to promote merchant mining, not the captive mine. The merchant miners are the ones who either export or cater to the downstream industries. That should be the focus of any amendment in the future.
Okay, let's address the issue of financing. Obviously, the government probably sees is that the smaller and MSMEs would find it difficult to finance a operation, a exploration or a mining operation. What I see is that there are overseas locations, several innovative financing tools are available to explorers or small-scale miners. Some of them are transfer of leases, joint ventures, royalty sales, forward selling. These are pretty usual and standard business practices for small explorers as well as miners all over the world.
Yes.
Now, is our government hesitant in letting the explorers and small-scale miners use these tools in India? And,
they are not hesitant. I would not say the hesitation, but because the intention has always been, the Ministry of Mines' intention is to generate revenue. As a result, they are looking at the exploration field, exploration sector also as a revenue generating one. The exploration sector, it should be treated as a resource development division. The revenue comes only when it is taken up for mining. So the policy of auctioning, the process of auctioning that is going to be as contained in the NMP 2019 is India continues to focus on auctioning even to dispose of licenses for exploration. This is the one which is coming in the way of adopting mineral exploration as a business. So the overseas investors will shun India. Even as I said earlier, even the Indian investors will move to mineral-friendly destinations overseas. That will happen in the future. They must get rid of auction route for exploration. The first compass has always been the best international practice, which encouraged exploration as a standalone economic business activity.
What I see is that in overseas jurisdictions, not only this being a first come first serve definitely is necessary to promote exploration, but there are some other reasons why exploration companies might not come to India. The exploration companies first they acquire the license and then they go out to raise money with other investors or do joint ventures to develop those properties or raise money to do exploration in those properties. Now, in our context, the government presumes that companies that will come to India will come here with a lot of money and then take part in auction and then apply for all those concessions and clearances and then do the exploration. Worldwide, this is not done. Only very small companies, small group of explorers first take the license, then keep raising money to develop those licenses to de-risk them to be a potential mine. And that's how the industry works all over the world. So why our policy makers expect those companies to come to India with full pockets?
Exactly. This is, I should say, number one, lack of understanding of how the exploration as a business goes on in overseas countries. Having said that, I should say, you see, many secretaries of the Ministry of Mines in the last 20 years have gone to PDAC in Toronto. They are attending regularly. They have also started attending Indaba in Cape Town in South Africa. Why? What is that they have understood? Why they are not implementing the business of exploration to encourage the resource development in the country, adopting those international best practices? Why they are sticking to the auction route, which nobody likes in the field of exploration? So I would say, to your question, I would say there's either a lack of understanding or they don't want to understand and go with the only focus of revenue generation. This is very skewed thinking. Exploration will only lead to revenue generation at a later stage. This will lead to exploration leads to discoveries and the resource development. Distinction must be appreciated by the Ministry of Mines.
I have also attended so many PDACs and Indabas, and obviously there are hundreds and thousands of companies there that have set up stall, and they are actually promoting their projects in order to raise finance for investing back in the host country's exploration. Now there are again the financial tools that those companies use are the same, primarily joint ventures. Second is transfer of the leases in part. and royalty sales. Are these permitted in India?
No, unfortunately, no. This is another thing that is a stumbling block for all the explorers. You raised a very, very important question, which is bothering every explorer, exploration companies in the country today. The Rule 12A, Section 12A, coupled with the Rule 24, is a major stumbling block. Our Prime Minister often said, make things easy for doing business in the country. In the business of mineral exploration, transfers, easy transfer is a must, without which exploration does not succeed. Discoveries will never happen. That is the key to transfer. And a risk-taking investor, for example, I as a geologist, I will spend 1 crore rupees, but I would like to pass on my discoveries and my knowledge to another investor for a premium. That is not happening, number one. Number two, world over, the raising funds for exploration has been the stock exchange. There is a provision in India under the Act to raise funds from the stock exchange. And it's only now, for example, we need to adopt certain public reporting standards. Fortunately for us, Mining Engineers Association of India, led by our Dr. P.V. Rao, obtained the concurrence of the CRISCO. They have framed what is called IMIC, Indian Mineral Industry Code. That's a very good advancement, a step forward in exploration in the country. The Ministry of Mines has taken cognizance of IMIC and constituted a committee to give it a legal backing for IMIC. That's a very good thing. But coupled with that, they must advise the SEBI to accept exploration companies and make transfers liberal.
In brief, if I understand, you are saying that the policy tools or the financial fundraising tools are not available to Indian businesses because our policy makers and our bureaucrats do not understand these modern tools?
Yes and no. Because Geological Survey of India, Indian Bureau of Mines, technical people are there. They are always advising. We have got the National Mineral Exploration Trust. There are advisors, best advisors in the government today. But why only focus is on auction? I don't understand that. As a result of that one, for example, China in 1993, when the first mineral policy, liberal mineral policy was adopted by government of India, China was producing about 3 or 5 tons. India was also producing 5 tons of gold at that time. Today, China is producing 400 tons of gold, whereas Indian annual mine production has come down from the earlier 5 tons to 2 tons today. There is only one major mine, that is Hatti Gold Mines in Karnataka, and two of its satellite mines. 3 mines are working today. Whereas we have plenty of resources, drilled resources in this country. We can certainly come up to a production of 100 tons per annum. It's possible.
So this auction has actually come into vogue in since 2015. But private exploration or say junior exploration had actually taken roots in India in 1990s itself. So there have been exploration booms during the late 90s, and some companies actually continue to do exploration even today, or be, let's say, registered as exploration companies, which are probably struggling. So is there in the new mineral policy, in the auction route, is there some protection given to these companies that have been exploring since before 2015?
Yes, exactly. This is another very important question that you raised today. You see, the performance of the explorers, under the earlier MMDR Act, pre-2015, was very good. When the first come first serve was the vogue, and it was, I should say, successful. Many discoveries of kimberlites have happened. Several new discoveries, earlier unknown, of gold have happened. Even base metals have happened in the pre-2010, and there is a protection. I will come to that. But already the government of India, under the old policy, 1993 policy, and the old act which encouraged the FCFS, was indeed successful. Several applications, I should say nearly 300 prospecting license applications or over that were filed. Many of them, even after nearly 15 years, and have not been processed so far. The delay was the one. Rules were all fine. It was the delays that killed. They could not progress the reconnaissance permits into prospecting license, the mining stage, mainly because of the delays in the grant of prospecting licenses and eventually mining lease. So discoveries has happened. It was very successful. That model ought to have been continued. Built into that was whatever that was needed was ease of transfer was the only thing that was required at that point of time. So now coming to your second, that's related question is, there is one is what is called 10A to B. that was built into the current MMDR Act. That was very good on the part of Ministry of Mines in this regard, and that gave legal backing for the state governments to process all those pending applications to dispose it off. But that intention is still on paper. That has not happened. That is an injustice, I should say, done to all the earlier explorers who made several discoveries.
So you are telling me that despite the legal provision, exploration companies that have invested millions of dollars or crores of rupees into exploration, made discoveries, are still not able to do the mining of those projects or those mines just because the applications have not been processed for several years? Is that true?
Yes, in several cases, Government of India has given the approval. I should say I can take up Ganajur mine lease, for example, of held by Deccan Exploration Services. 5 years over, the state government here in Karnataka has not granted it. The Government of India, Ministry of Mines, sought the opinion of the Indian Bureau of Mines, the Geological Survey of India, before approving the mining lease. Even the feasibility is over. That's one of the best discoveries that happened by Deccan Exploration Services. Likewise, there are several other discoveries made by the companies in those days. I can name those companies: Geomysore Services India Private Limited, Deccan Exploration Services, Ramgarh Minerals Exploration. They have made several discoveries in the Gadag Belt. So these, and most important one was the Bundair discovery. One of the, for the last 25 years, similar discovery had not happened in any part of the world. That happened in the state of Madhya Pradesh. Just the best quality diamond mining lease was not granted, or why it was not promoted. I came to know that it is due to environmental related issues. It is very unfortunate. The mining is site specific. Forest, polycultured forest can be grown, but mine, you cannot create a diamond where you want to create. That natural mineral resources must be protected. It's a wealth of a nation. So these ought to be addressed by the Ministry of Mines. Even a windmill can stop a gold mine from coming up. That has happened in Ramgiri Goldfields in Anantapur district of Andhra Pradesh. There are several such areas in Kolari area in eastern Maharashtra, only trying to drive home the point that minerals are site specific. Once a good amount of money is spent either by GSI, MECL, and the state departments, private sector, that shall be protected for in the interest of nation, mineral development, industries development.
So essentially, the policy tools that we see are actually acting against the policy directions again. Now, what will happen to Rule 10A2B in case there is an amendment in Mineral Concession Act, which is the giving protection to the people who have already invested millions of dollars, and their applications are still not processed by the state governments because of some reason or the other, some justified, some otherwise. So what happens to these companies? Will they be able to survive, or what's going to happen to them?
See, the Government of India, they should not drive them to the courts, number one. That is in the interest of, say, promoting and fast-tracking mineral resource development in the country. For example, those who are under 10A2B are mostly some mining leases, bulk mineral commodities, and then the non-bulk resources like gold, base metals, diamond resources, etc. You see, there is an urgency to create as many jobs for skilled and unskilled in rural areas. The next to agriculture, it is only the mining industry or can follow what is social distancing. The outdoor jobs in terms of lakhs of jobs can be created only by agriculture, mining in the country. This we must keep in mind for the future of India. It will be a change environment. We can't depend upon some of these metals or on China or other countries. What I would like to say is these 10A2B protected cases must be completed, cleared. Then they can get rid of 10A2B. So in the interest of justice and in fast-tracking mineral development, 10A2B must be honored.
What signals are we going to give to the global industry watchers and global investors or foreign investors if we deny them the standard financial tools that they are used to using elsewhere, and the legal protections that industry or investor should enjoy? What signal are we giving to the global industry?
In fact, you have answered your own questions now. Because one is if you change laws which are not in tune with the international best practices, foreign investments will not come. At the same time, even Indian investors will go to greener pasture. Okay, number one, the incentivization in the taxes must. Number two, transfers must be made very easy, and that's the international best practices. And even the Prime Minister wants it from the point of ease of doing business. Number three, for the exploration companies to raise funds, law must be enacted. Proper laws must be enacted, and the SEBI should accept the exploration companies on stock exchange. These are some of the things that comes to my mind, and the auction should be got rid of, at least granting mineral exploration licenses in the future. I'm happy non-exclusive has been made exclusive. That's a great move. But in terms of prospecting and mining, especially prospect, it should not be through auction route.
If all these things happen, then what direction do you see the industry going?
Number one, it creates a lot of jobs. That is most important in our country. Now, it must create millions of jobs in the rural areas of the country. Now, we must consider mineral exploration and mining of all scales, micro, mini, small scales to big scale. And within the next 2 years, these things should happen, because there is a lot of migration that has taken place in cities to the rural areas, and we must find jobs for those who are residing in the rural areas today. Mining and mineral exploration sector is the key for India next to agriculture. And we are in a changed scenario. We must reduce our imports, create jobs at the same time. They must completely liberalize, not sticking to only the auction route.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a very passionate appeal to the government, and I hope the policymakers take a note of this, implement the legal changes. Dr. Vasu is here, I'm here. Any support or any help that policymakers or anybody who's interested in the subject, please contact us, or please write your questions in the comment section, and please subscribe to the channel so that more such thoughts and videos can reach you. Thank you, Dr. Vasudev.
But let us meet again, because you are one of the best professionals, even global level professional you are, and particularly with international expertise to speak on mineral exploration as a business. In fact, I would like to interview when this opportunity arises next. Thank you for this.
Thank you, sir. Was Dr. V.N. Vasudev, a pioneer in India in the real sense. He brings about some interesting, serious thoughts. These are the points to ponder, especially for our policymakers and people who are interested in the mining industry in India. Indian mining laws are changing frequently. Problem is compounded when the objectives also change. Objectives of the law changed from mineral development to revenue generation. When the liberalized laws came into effect in 1993, the global mining industry responded very positively. But poor implementation by the state governments, especially in converting the RPs to PLs and PLs to MLs, that were taking years, caused their exodus. Almost all the big names in the mining industry came to India in 1993 to 1997 period and set up shop. But by the turn of century, all of them were gone. Now the mining law of 2015 has failed to deliver mineral development, especially in high value metal sectors like gold, copper, nickel, and our manufacturing industry has become totally import dependent. In its rush to generate revenues, government is resorting to auctioning of unproven deposits, partially explored blocks, and also auctioning all these properties without the associated permissions, environmental clearance, forest clearance, or any other such clearance that would be required for the operator to start their work. This has essentially killed the exploration industry and has caused the pipelines of new mines totally dry, and which has resulted to scarcity of essential minerals and thus import dependence. FDI in exploration has also dried up, and not only the FDI, even Indian exploration industry is deploying its capitals in overseas mining-friendly jurisdictions. These are billions of dollars every year going overseas. Only iron ore, manganese, chromite, limestone and bauxite, bulk minerals to say, are being considered by the policymakers. Why is the ministry giving such stepmotherly treatment to other minerals? Why are these governments not addressing the skewed development and increase of import dependence? Who is this policy benefiting? Will this not cause more corruption? No wonder mines are not able to start production and imports continue. Why are we not adopting international best practices? The global players would be more comfortable with those. That would immediately become very inviting considering our wonderful geology. But why is the government continuously trying to reinvent the wheel? Why are we not learning from jurisdictions that have solved this problem? Our government officials are observing international forums like PDAC and Indaba PDSC in Toronto and Indaba in Cape Town. While being very focused on revenue generation, at the same time, the government is putting severe restrictions on innovations, capital generation tools that are available to the industry players all over the world. International best practices of sale of leases, raising finance by diluting equity, joint ventures, royalty sales, and almost all standard fundraising tools are not available to the Indian industry. Is this not unreasonable that we are tying their hands behind their backs and telling them to run instead of properly encouraging them? Success of any policy is measured in its outcomes. In 1993, as Dr. Vasudev quoted, China and India both were producing about 5 tons of gold. Today, China is producing 400 tons, while Indian production is down to 2 tons. Industry insiders see policy flip-flops being regressive. Agriculture, exploration and mining are naturally rural area industries and can create thousands of jobs in rural India. And with social distancing, we need surgical strike on bad policies, bad rules, and ensure quick implementation of the rules. Keep growing in the new post-COVID world. Thank you so much. So many points to ponder. Please think about it. Please comment on this video. We would be very happy and very encouraged to see your feedback. And please also do subscribe to the channel. We promise to continue producing such thought-provoking videos. Thank you.